welcome again to another insightful and exciting episode of In Conversation. My name is Bongani, and today I'm going to be joined by Prof. Kinta. Prof, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much.
As we were speaking earlier, I'm quite honored to finally have you here. I've seen your signature, it's beautiful as you are.
Thank you.
Pleasure. And we've received the news that you are leaving the institution. Has the reality sinked in there?
Yes, I think so, because I've had my farewells and there's more to come. But yeah, no, so I'm leaving end of this month. Then my second term as registrar will come to an end. So you may serve 2 terms as registrar. So it's the time then to actually not say goodbye forever, but to take a break, and then, maybe to see if there's still some involvement going forward. But at this stage, I'm going to take a bit of leave. And so the reality, yes, I'm busy also starting to clean my office and make space for the new registrar, Prof van Vieren, who then will come in on 1st of April, but she has been now already shadowing me. So it's a smooth handover.
Wow, which is beautiful, and she has learned from the best. Speaking about the best, Prof, we're made to understand that you've only worked at the University of Johannesburg. So how has that experience been, and what other positions have you held at UJ?
So I started as a student at UJ, then the old RAL, as a first year student in 1982, so a long time ago. And I completed then my undergraduate studies here, my honours, also a postgraduate diploma in education. And so after my honours and that postgraduate diploma, I did my master's in mathematics. And then actually I taught for 1 year. That was the only other job I had. Taught for 1 year at Linden High School, here in Linden, close by. And then after that 1 year, I came back to do my PhD, first full-time and then later part-time when I was appointed in the mathematics department. So I joined as a staff member in 1991. First just as a staff member in the maths department, later as HOD. And then in 2004, I was appointed as Dean of the Faculty of Science. And I also served 2 terms there before I became registrar in 2014 here at UJ.
And you see, the brief that you just given me, it shows that your blood is actually orange.
Absolutely orange.
Blood.
Absolutely orange. My heart is orange. My blood is orange. 100%. And I mean, it's been really such a journey, in that periods that I mentioned briefly, for example, 2004, when I became dean, it was just a year when before actually the merger, of the various institutions. So it was the year when we incorporated the 2 Vista campuses, the Soweto campus and the East Rand campus. So it was quite a let's say exciting time, challenging time as well, because it was about change management, to bring that various institutions together. And I feel very privileged that I could have played a part in that unification of, first of all, the Faculty of Science, because we were on all campuses,
Yes.
And then after that, of course, to play a part in the building of the university where we are currently.
And your role is quite evident, which now brings me to understanding that the current state of the university and the old one, what strikes you the most in terms of their differences? What's different from what it was before, and what's the exciting part now?
I think that is something that has served UJ actually very well, is the merger. Because, it created just a space and a climate for change. And the hunger actually to be the best, to reposition all the institutions, the legacy institutions. They really wanted to re-establish themselves as now this new University of Johannesburg. So I think that was for me really a feature of the new university, dynamic, hungry for change, hungry for achievements, etc. whereas maybe some of the older institutions have become a little bit complacent because they were good, whereas we were very, very, very ambitious, and we still are. But now I think was also the transition first from Prof. Iron Rensburg to Prof. Marwala as Vice Chancellor, and now with Prof. Letlokwa Mapedi. I think the university has also matured. We can see it in our systems, our processes, but also in terms of our profile of our staff. We've got really wonderful staff, and so we are now going to the next level. And the next level, as per the new Vice Chancellor's vision, is really we've gone through the 4IR to be the forerunners, and we are in South Africa the forerunners in terms of 4IR, and not only in the academic space, in the support divisions as well, with new technology, new innovation. Now we want to also have a higher impact, the societal impact that Prof. Mapedi refers to. And I think that is now the time for the university to make that impact. I mean, if you look at what is going on around us, universities need to find solutions, and not as individual universities, but as a collective. And I think that's where UJ can also play a role. So I think the university is just going to have an even stronger impact going forward.
And the prospects do sound intriguing for UJ, and I'm very excited to be enlightened by you, who have lived in those generations of both. So now, coming to your position as the registrar, which you it's been two terms, what were the most challenges? Because I believe it's a demanding job, and especially with the visions that we have, making societal impact, and 4IR was also introduced during those terms.
Yeah.
What were the challenges that you're facing?
Well, I think in terms of challenges, maybe I can highlight the fees must fall. That happened 2016 thereabout, and that actually also, I must say, prepared us well for the next challenge, which was the COVID situation. And I mean, we know, and I think we've almost forgotten how serious it was. But when it happened, in 2020, we had very quickly to make sure that we can continue academically with our programs. So we had to put in measures in place to support our students. The lessons learned from Fees Must Fall, when we also had to go online for a while, but not to the same extent that we had to do during COVID. But that served us well, because we could already just sort of revisited the business continuity plans that we put in place at that stage. So it served us well. The COVID situation, I think the university managed it very well. And also not only because of the lessons learned through Fees Must Fall, but also we already had our online processes and systems in place in the registrar's portfolio, but also elsewhere. So that was another big challenge, and of course then it was the vaccination policy, etc. And I was the chairperson of the COVID committee of UJ, and it was challenging because not everyone agreed. So typically I received many letters, emails about unhappy people, unhappy students and staff. But we came out, and I think, again, we've learned so much in terms of online, hybrid learning, etc. So just the push towards hybrid learning, that is something very valuable that we actually got out from the COVID situation. But those were, for me, the two big challenges during my time as registrar. I would say a challenging time as well during my time as dean was shortly after the merger, because there it was bringing people together, different mindsets, and also bringing just, I think, policies and procedures, to align that. And it was a time where you really had to work on change management of staff, to make sure that you take everyone with you. But we came out so much stronger. For me, really, the merger is a triumph, a transformation triumph for the university.
Wow, and that is true. That I feel like with the progress that UJ has made, it is quite a triumph. And I heard you touch a bit on the unhappy emails, unhappy people sending you emails. That also led me to the next question, which I have in terms of how did you deal with students who were qualifying to be in the institution, but due to various reasons, which may be not affording maybe registration fees and other things, and they couldn't access because of limited space? How did you deal with that, and what
Yeah,
was your stance on it?
yeah. You see, I think with the registrar's position, many students will not know what it is about until they are in trouble, basically, academically speaking, you know, where they maybe have not performed well and they are academically excluded, and then, of course, the appeal process happens, and that's usually when they get to know about the registrar. But you know, the other times when we work very closely with students is during our application and registration period. And I must say, you know, the just the demand for spaces has increased so much the last couple of years. For this year's admissions, we've received over 350 applications last year, and we can actually place only 10,500 thereabout first year students. So you can see what it will mean for many, you know, um, disappointed applicants that can't make it into UJ. Of course, applicants also apply elsewhere. They don't apply only at UJ. Now, what we try to do is always to see, even if an applicant, if it's really a applicant with very good results, we want to find place for that applicant. Sometimes not in the program, but maybe in a program that is close, you know, say between engineering and science and so on, and perhaps with articulation possibilities later on. In some instances, we also need to refer students to our continuing education programs. Those are the non-subsidized programs. And you know, where maybe they can do short learning programs, and also again with articulation possibilities later on. So we have many such possibilities. If not for this year, you find a place, maybe you can do, say, a certificate in these continuing education suite of programs, and later on articulate in a other program. And then we also refer them, you know, to our central application clearinghouse. That is a platform where students can inquire about space at other universities. So we try to assist them as far as possible. But the limited space, it means that there will be disappointed students. And what is sad is really that there's every year that group of students that didn't get in is growing, because there's, you know, every year more and more that didn't get in the previous year. So I think what universities are doing, and what UJ is really embarking on, is to look at online offerings, because for our subsidized programs, we are really also restricted with our facilities, you know. We can only take in so many students. We've got the enrollment plan that is approved by the Department of Higher Education, and we can't go beyond that, because then the quality of what you are offering is also at risk. So we need to look at alternatives, and the online hybrid type of teaching and learning, which we've learned how successful it can be now during COVID. That is the future, I think, to offer more opportunities for our students that can't get into a physical, you know, teaching and learning opportunity at the university.
Wow. And adding on that, I think I myself, as a student of the institution, I think during registration period, there was a time that I couldn't afford on time, but there was constant reminders, even calls to say, even for my honors, that was the similar case. I got a call within the department to say the space is limited, so kindly do so. So the communication, I believe also it helps students to also register and be part of the institution, amongst the other various measures that you have put in place that have been working and trying to extend the number or the forms of teaching, which is hybrid teaching. Moving on that, I think, of course, we can't run away with registration. We can't run away from student funding. What's your
Yes.
take on that?
Yeah. That is a ever increasing also problem, and we've seen it this year. We are very grateful for NSFAS, and for many of our students they are supported by NSFAS. We've got actually a very high percentage of students supported by NSFAS. And so at undergraduate level, it seems there is, support. And then there's also additional bursaries or bursaries for, let's say, missing middle students. The university is really doing what they can also for fundraising for the missing middle. That is now the students that can't, is not eligible for NSFAS funding, but they still can't actually afford their tuition fees. So that at UJ at undergraduate level is the situation. The problem is when students fall out of the NSFAS funding, and that is usually because they extend their study period beyond the N+2. So N is standing for your minimum number of years, so 3 years. If they go over 5 years, then they are cut from NSFAS. And that is where really they struggle, because sometimes they only need to complete 1 or 2 modules for them to graduate. In those cases, the university really tries to support the students. It's in their interest, but it's also in our interest. We want students to graduate and finish. Otherwise, the investment has been futile. So that is where the undergraduate situation is. But more and more, you are busy with your postgraduate studies now, and at postgraduate level, that's where the funding is really becoming scarce. We've got the NRF, the National Research Foundation, which supports students but limited. The numbers, they can't support everyone. Also, in the past, maybe students could have actually worked part-time while they fund their studies themselves. Now with unemployment being so high, it's becoming also tough for students to find a work that is enough for them to pay for themselves for their studies. So we are busy looking at that, because we need to now really focus funding opportunities on our postgraduate students. And again, the university is putting money into it from our own pockets, but it's not really sustainable, And I think going forward is going to become more and more an issue unless the economy takes a turn for the better, so that we can really have employment. Ideally, students should actually do a little bit of work, not too much, because then it affects their studies, but it's good to have a little bit of work. It builds your CV as well, and that's ideally how it should be, so that there's at least some financial support for the student while they're studying.
And that actually gives a bit of calm, I think, to the viewers as well, who are students, to understand or learn that the higher office also understands the issues that you are actually experiencing, and they are trying as much as they can to put measures in place to mitigate those.
Yeah.
Touching a bit on the NSFAS N+2, I think it can also, we can marry it with the academic exclusion. What's your take on that in terms of students being academically excluded due to not finishing in the prescribed time?
Yeah. Well, from our side, it's very tough. We don't want to exclude students. We really want our students to be successful, and we will pull out all stops from our side to support them. Therefore, the university has invested in a very extensive a tutoring program, to allow for additional contact, if not with the lecturer, then, with a tutor. We've got senior tutors, we've got more junior tutors. So that is really what we are trying to do to avoid the academic exclusion. We also try to identify at-risk students early, because if it comes to the end of the semester, it's sometimes too late. So we need to do these interventions, this additional support early in the semester. But after, say, a warning and another chance and another chance, if the student is then not successful, then we need to exclude the student. And the reason being, because we have limited space. So you can't just bring in students and they don't exit. They must exit. And our ideal is, of course, they exit with a qualification and with, the record time, the minimum time. But when we see that that student is really not progressing in spite of all our efforts, then we need to say to that student, you are not serious at this stage. Maybe you need to go to another university, or maybe you need to first go and take a break and come back later. But at this stage, you are not going to finish, and it's unfair to keep a place because you are actually then taking a place of a student that could have come in. So that is the problem. But we try to support the students as far as we can so that it doesn't happen, to avoid the academic exclusion.
And indeed, I think mentioning some of the things that I've also taken reluctantly as a student is the tutorials itself, because some students do not attend tutorials, whereas they are struggling academically, not understanding that is a strategy put in place by the institution to assist you so that you finish in record time.
Yeah.
That is really pleasing to hear. Speaking of support systems, which one are you most proud of, or an initiation or implementation that was done by the institution that you'd be proud to say, this I was part of?
Well, if I go back a bit, during my time as dean, I think what maybe for me is something that is there to show, and that is the Soweto Science Center. That was established. It was established shortly after the merger. We actually received funding from the department also for investment in the Soweto campus. So we did that investment, and as part of that, my proposal was, let's establish then a Soweto Science Center. And that was basically to support the learners with mathematics and physical science and life sciences, the school pupils. But it was done in such a way that they also get exposure to the university, to the Soweto camps. And the reason for that is those are really the bottleneck subjects, which you need to pass and pass very well to enter science and engineering, and even some of the BCom degree programs require mathematics, etc. So we did, and health sciences, of course. So we did that also to ensure that there are enough learners that can actually qualify for these studies. And it's been really a huge success. And the learners there, they do very, very well. So they are from grade 10 now up to grade 12. But then I think during the time as registrar, what I'm proud of is that, I try to have a registrar's office that is really not only about strict governance, but is really about finding solutions for difficult problems, the student problems, but also to make sure that our systems and processes are really student friendly, client friendly, makes it easier, and is conducive for students to also perform well. So there's rules, of course, but like I always say, you need to be like a good referee. You need to apply the rules, and there needs to be order, etc. But the game must also flow. You can't just blow the whistle the whole time. So you need to find solutions and make sure that the process flows, basically. So I think I'm proud of having had that sort of vision for the registrar's portfolio, and I can see that it is currently how people also, my team, also how they think about their various units. They are service oriented, they want to find solutions, they are innovative, they are looking the whole time on how we can do it better. And in the process, they've developed, under my leadership, many of the programs, many of the systems. I'm proud of the alumni. I'm proud of the alumni magazine, and the long actually way that we've come since we've taken over the alumni office. So I'm proud of that. I'm very proud of what we've done and managed to do during COVID. We had virtual graduations, for example, and we had developed many more systems in the process, so that basically for that 350,000 applicants, we can do it very quickly, quick turnaround time. without having that innovation, we would not have been able to handle 350,000. And then there's, I don't know how many 100,000 or so more that come in also via our late inquiry system. We've got a chatbot that we've implemented. And this chatbot is just getting more clever and cleverer every day. So, the chatbot, he or she, can now really assist students with most inquiries. So I'm proud that we've done that and also had very good governance in place. But the governance was never just to say this is the rule. It was really to also work around solutions.
Like, these are powerful initiatives that you were from the establishment of the Soweto campus, as you have said, how it assisted students with maths and other different subjects, and the governance itself, which is inclusive. That for me is very touching. With saying that, Prof, what is your memorable moment at personal and professional capacity at the University of Johannesburg? I know there are many.
Sure. I think with every position that I took up, it was something that I didn't take up, I didn't take it lightly. So every time I was promoted was for me a big moment. At the time when I became dean, it was, the faculty was basically white male, and so to play a part in the transformation of the faculty and during that difficult merger time, that for me stood out as something that I can look back at and that I feel very proud of. But I must say, in the later years, when I became registrar, that was for me a big moment, because then you also become part of the management executive committee. So then you're part of the group that really steers the university, of course, with all the support from colleagues, from the deans, from the directors, and from your team. But for me, that was really a big moment. I never ever thought that I would become part of the management executive committee. When I entered this as a student here, I didn't have that in mind. I studied with a teacher bursary, and I had to go to work back. And when I continued with my doctoral studies, I had to pay back, because I had actually was supposed to work back for 4 years, which I only worked back 1 year, and so the rest I had to pay back. And so for me, that was never ever, something that I imagined. I had my ambitions, but not to be a registrar, and so it was a big moment for me.
Yeah, and wow, I literally can assure with you giving that, you still had to pay back the money that you had, which also links back to you understanding more the challenges that students
Yes.
have, because you've gone through the same process.
Yeah.
Now, in relationship to the last question, it would be, what will you miss the most? Is there a special chair that is reserved for you? Is there your office and picture? What will you remember the most at the University of Johannesburg?
I think, UJ is really a wonderful place to work. For me, I've never had issues where I didn't receive support. I never had issues with, I think, challenges with staff. So for me, it was really a privilege to have worked with the staff. When I was in the faculty and when I was now as a registrar. So I think what I will miss most probably is being part of such a team, and feel that you really contribute. Some days it's tough, some days you just deal with students, just F7s and academic exclusions. But in the end, if you look back, maybe you've helped 1 or 2 students. Sometimes you give a student another chance, and when I do that, I usually tell the student, now you need to come and show me your academic results every time. And that type of also reward that you get, where you could see you've made a difference in a few lives. You've played a role in developing people, but also systems. And so I'm going to miss that excitement of being part of solutions and playing a part in particular now with the University of Johannesburg, where we are really on a upward trajectory. being a part of that team that makes things happen. I'm going to miss that, you know. So, but it was a very, very good journey, and I've had made very, very good friends, and of course I will stay in touch with them. But I
Yes.
will miss working with them, but I'm going to stay in touch with them, yeah.
Definitely, Prof. Social impact, teamwork has literally something to miss. In closing, Prof, I'd like to give you the opportunity. It's not a farewell statement, but you can address our viewers in any sense that you'd feel so.
No, thank you. I would just like to say maybe, you know, UJ, watch the space. You know, our Vice Chancellor is very ambitious in making it the top university, and we have already achieved so much, but we're going to achieve much more. But it's not only because we just want the rankings, you know, and be the top in the rankings, etc. What we want as UJ is to really make an impact, to make a difference. And you will see that. You're going to see that in terms of finding solutions for our current big problems. And we will be much more orange across the world, you
Across
know.
the world.
We're gonna be part of a much bigger team going forward in terms of a UJ team. And I think to our alumni, I would like to say, you know, stay engaged in UJ. We really want you to be involved. We want to profile you in our beautiful alumni magazine, but we also want you to visit us and to pay back, not necessarily in funding, etc., but making time, becoming mentors for our young students, and sort of pay it forward, you know, and that is where you can really play a role. So thank you very much,
Thank you
Bongani.
so much. And therefore, the blood will forever be orange. That's what I've taken.
Absolutely. Orange heart, orange blood.
Yeah.
Yes, yeah.
Thank you so much, Prof. It was a pleasure to have you in studio and having you to share the great experience that you have had and your contribution to the institution. We're utmost grateful.
Thank you.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
Thanks, Bongani.
Well, there you've had it, guys. Prof. Kinta Berger just enlightened us of the experience and the energy that she put, the contribution towards the institution. We are utmost grateful, and make sure that you get us in the next episode. Goodbye.
The University of Johannesburg, the future reimagined.